Konnichiwa. Thank you for having me here today. I'm going to share some learnings today about leadership and management that I picked up during my career in Silicon Valley. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've applied those at Google and how we're applying them at the new company that I'm involved in, Niantic. For me, I started my management career, I got an MBA from UC Berkeley, and immediately went into a startup company. So I didn't have a lot of experience as a manager, sort of dove into it and was learning on the job, improvising, you could say, or making it up as you went along, you could say. So I was looking all over the place for insight, for ideas to help me as a leader of a high-tech company. And one of those sources of information came from an unusual place, a guy named Phil Jackson. Has anybody here heard of Phil Jackson before? He was a basketball coach. I don't know if you guys follow professional basketball, but he was a really famous basketball coach because he coached the Chicago Bulls during the time that Michael Jordan played for them. So Michael Jordan, probably the best basketball player ever to have played the game. At the same time, despite the fact that this was an incredibly talented set of people, when he came in to be coach, they weren't a championship team. Michael Jordan was an amazing individual athlete, but the team wasn't winning. So I read this whenever I was managing a startup. I had a bunch of engineers working for me, and as weird as it seems, the lessons that he was talking about from coaching a professional basketball team seemed really relevant to me with this startup. So I was really interested in kind of trying to pull some of these lessons out of what I was reading in the Phil Jackson book and apply them in Silicon Valley. Just like with the Bulls, a lot of times you can have an amazingly talented set of individuals, but they may not be achieving at the highest level as a team. So what specific things did Jackson do? Talk about mindfulness and Buddhism, like what did he really do with his team? As strange as it may be to picture, he actually taught Zazen, sitting meditation, to the professional basketball team. So he sat with Michael Jordan and the other stars. You guys may have grown up with Zen, and maybe you learned about it in school, but for me, I was really shocked to read this, that these professional basketball players were sitting down and meditating. The final thing that he talked about, and it's the one I want to kind of expand on, was this idea of what he called continuous pull versus push as a way of motivation. So push means you tell people what to do, you push, you try to get people to work harder. Pull means, for him, as he explains it, creating some shared common goal that everybody together believes in. And that's a continuous pull, kind of from the bottoms up, this like swell of enthusiasm to work really hard and to try to achieve a goal. And he talked about doing that with his team, getting them not to focus on their individual statistics or their television commercials or their Nike sponsorship deals, but to rather focus on what can they achieve together as a team, entering this state of play with one another where they're completely immersed in the game, they're playing it at the very highest level, and their focus is on winning the championship together as a team versus on the individual. So obviously that's something that broadly applies. So we kind of stumbled into this, but I took away from that if you can find a mission that's bigger than just the profit and loss mission and marry the two, it's a fantastic way to really inspire a team from the bottom up. And it works in the high-tech environment that we live in today, the competitive environment with engineers and designers where this top talent can go anywhere they want, and you can't dictate what they're going to do. But if you can inspire them, you can attract them, and you can retain them. So it helped us with morale. It kept the turnover on the team low, which is a huge issue in Silicon Valley, people jumping from one company to another. And it helped create an environment where we could achieve a really fast rate of innovation. So when I went on to the next project, Niantic Labs, which was the thing I jumped into Google after working on Earth and Maps, I knew that we wanted to design that company, design that entity from the beginning with this higher mission in mind. We started inside of Google. We actually spun out of Google last year with an investment from the Pokemon company and Nintendo here in Japan. One of the reasons I'm I'm over here now. Very appreciative of that. But when we were thinking about the company and how we wanted to go explore the space of mobility and mapping and social and gaming, we wanted to see how those things could be combined in a new way. But we wanted to do it with a mission that would make us feel as energized and happy about coming to work every day as we had felt in Geo, doing our job there. So one of the things that was close to me and that became the foundation of our philosophy was this idea of technology and what it's doing to all of us, but especially our kids. So I don't know if any of you guys here have families or have children. I have 3. But managing how much time your kids spend with an iPad or the cell phone, that's incredibly difficult. You know, the applications that we build are so addictive. Kids want to spend so much time with them. But I work in the technology industry, but even though I love technology, I hate to see my kids sitting in front of a computer, you know, when it's a beautiful sunny day outside. You know, so we began to really think about how we could construct a mission that would use technology to get people outside and get people exploring. So we constructed our company to basically be the opposite of that. We took on the philosophy of adventures on foot. So we basically wanted to use cell phones, wearable devices, evolving towards augmented reality devices. Maybe we'll have augmented reality glasses at some point in the future. But we said, hey, let's use technology to reinforce our natural human behaviors of playing outside, kicking a ball, playing outside with your family, the joy of just taking a walk or exploring a new part of town you haven't been to before. That's what we formed the company around. Final thing that I wanted to share, this is the last one, but the last kind of lesson, it's one that resonated with me. Phil Jackson wrote about it, but it's a pretty broad idea. It's this idea of the invisible leader. And he used a quote in his book to set it up. A good merchant hides his goods and appears to have nothing. A skilled craftsman leaves no traces. How that applies to the world that we live in modern technology, modern management, is this idea that you don't necessarily have to be Steve Jobs, right? And again, I struggle with this too all the time, so I'm not saying like I always get this right. But the basic idea is you don't have to be the center of attention. You don't have to prove that you're the best at everything that is done within your company, that you can cultivate these leaders and make them the stars. And sometimes just be in the background, making that happen. And that's the approach that Phil Jackson took with the Bulls, kind of sitting in the background. Michael Jackson's the star, but he created the environment where they could win unprecedented 6 national championships. And I think it really is applicable to managing these really talented people in the tech space today. So that's what I had to share with you guys, and I want to thank you all for having me here today.